have to stand. Thank you. Thank you. You do not have to stand. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to join you today. Whenever I'm at events like these, I'm always really interested to know what led each of us into the room that we're in right now. And not just an underlying passion or interest, but really, what was the journey each of us took to be here? For me, it was a really long time ago, 26 years to be exact. When I first understood the importance of being in service to others and speaking up for other people who didn't have a voice. I was in first grade, just 6 years old, when I raised my hand and said to my teacher, "Can I go to the bathroom?" She looked at me and said, "I don't know, can you?" To which I responded, "Can I go to the bathroom?" At 6 years old, I didn't understand the difference between can I go to the bathroom and may I go to the bathroom. So I put my hand down, I didn't argue with her, and I just sat there. Eventually, being 6 years old, I wet myself, sitting right there in the seat. The student next to me grabbed my hand and said, "I'm really sorry she didn't let you go to the bathroom." And when the bell rang for us to leave, I sat there, waited for the rest of the class to leave, and then I left. When I got home, I told my mother what happened, and she was not happy about it. She reassured me that what had happened wasn't my fault, and the following day she went up to the school to have a few words with the teacher. And after they spoke, "Can I go to the bathroom?" was a perfectly fine way for me to ask to go to the bathroom. Out of all of the things that have happened in my life, that was a very, very small detail. But it has stayed with me because it was one of my first memories of feeling voiceless and helpless. But it was also the first time I remember someone intervening on my behalf to fix a problem that I didn't know how to fix. Although a small detail, that moment was the beginning of the journey that led me to be here with all of you today. But it wasn't a very linear path. When I was younger, I always believed that I would grow up, find a really high-paying job, and that my contribution to the world would be donating all this money I made to all the causes that I cared about. But as I got older, I began to understand the role that public policy plays in all of our lives. And so that's what pushed me to want to go work on Capitol Hill so that I could work on the policies that would make people's lives better. Unfortunately, after spending 6 years on Capitol Hill, I realized that those policies weren't going to be put in place until the politicians that wanted to see those policies were elected to office, which is how I ended up at Crooked Media. For those of you unfamiliar with Crooked Media, we're a relatively new media company that's mostly known for our podcast, Pod Save America. And if you're wondering, the name Crooked Media was inspired by our current president. Our founders and the host of Pod Save America are 3 former Obama staffers. And they started the company because they believed that the way that the media talks about politics was broken in this country. And that the traditional news media, they always focus on what's wrong, but never tell people what they can do to fix what's wrong. So in addition to telling people what's going on in the world, we let them know that the difference between the way things are and the way things can be is the action that they take to make them better. And it just so happens that we think electing Democrats is a big part of how we make things better. Like most of you, like all of you, our audience is a group of people who are engaged, care deeply, and willing to take action to make a change. But a lot of our audience doesn't know the ins and outs of politics and elections, which is where we were able to step in when we created Vote Save America. We like to call Vote Save America a one-stop shop for everything voters need to get smart, get involved, and get out to vote. So often, voting campaigns tell people to get registered and go vote, but they don't tell them all the steps that have to happen in between there. So instead of telling people what we thought they needed to know, we answered the questions they actually had. Oftentimes, a lot of people don't vote because they literally don't know how to vote. Can you register online? Do you have to send a paper registration form through the mail? Can you register at the voting booth? Can you vote early? Can you vote absentee? What is absentee ballot voting? We answered all of those questions and a lot more through Vote Save America for all 50 states. But we also addressed one of the biggest obstacles that keeps people from voting, a fear that they don't have enough information to make an informed vote. Unlike a lot of other voter engagement organizations, we have opinions about the people who are running, and we let them be known. If you visit votesaveamerica.com, you'll see all the information you need to vote, but you'll also get our commentary on who we think the best candidates are that will fight for a more progressive future. So if you're wondering if Vote Save America was successful for us last year, it definitely was. We launched the effort 2.5 months before the 2018 midterms, and in that time, nearly 1 million people used our voter guide to learn about the candidates on their ballot and the statewide ballot initiatives they would be voting on. We also filled 23,000 volunteer shifts for Democrats running around the country, and we raised $2.7 million for House candidates, US House candidates that were running. And I just want to take a moment to reflect on the $2.7 million that was raised. Money should be out of politics, I know. But while it's still here, we're going to get as much to Democrats as we can. But we, 2.3 million of the $2.7 million that we raised was raised in 13 days in October. Our audience, they wanted to know what they could do. And we said, you can help these candidates, and they responded. And it was a huge surprise to us because we had never tried a coordinated fundraising effort, and it turned out very successful. But when we reflected on how we were able to do it, it went back to our underlying philosophy that if you empower people to fix the problems in front of them, they will step up and respond enthusiastically. During the midterms, we were inundated with pictures, tweets, and Facebook and Instagram posts of our audience phone banking, writing postcards, and canvassing in their communities, all letting us know that they were doing their part. And this happened because we told them how important the election was and exactly what they could do to have an influence on the outcome, and their work paid off. Last year, Democrats flipped 40 seats to gain control of the US House, flipped 2 US Senate seats in Nevada and Arizona, took full control of 5 state legislatures, and flipped 7 governorships. And given what we were up against, we thought that was an amazing feat, a feat to overcome. But as we look ahead to 2020, we have the opportunity to build on the success of 2018. At Crooked, that means for us electing a Democratic president, getting rid of vulnerable US senators, including the one from my home state, Tom Tillis, defending newly elected US House Democrats, and electing Democrats to state legislatures and governorships that will fight Republican-led partisan gerrymandering. And we've already gotten started. Last month, Crooked Media launched a joint partnership with Stacey Abrams' Fair Fight. Fair Fight is an unprecedented effort to staff, fund, train voter protection teams in 20 battleground states. The effort is not cheap, though. Stacey said she's going to need at least $5 million to pull off this effort, which is where we stepped in. On September 13th, we announced that we'd help her raise $1 million to reach her $5 million goal. And by September 30th, we had reached our $1 million goal. And so in 2 weeks, we were able to do that. And we had a goal of doing that by November 5th, so we're just gonna leave it open and let people keep giving money so we can get her to her $5 million goal. And it was, again, our audience wanted to know what they could do now. Our presidential candidates are locked in a primary right now, and people still wanted to find out something they could do outside of that. We responded with Fair Fight, and they responded with an outpouring of support. And next year, when we launch our new and improved version of Vote Save America, we know that they'll do it again because it's what we need to do to win. Next year is the most consequential election of our lifetime, and the stakes are incredibly high, especially for all of the issues that are important to us, which is why we're asking everyone to dig a little deeper and do a little more. Instead of just repeating last year's efforts, we're asking everyone to step up again themselves, but to also call on their friends, family, and communities to step up in the same way they have. And I don't want to harp on this too much, but that's where Vote Save America is a very important tool. If you want to know the specifics on voting in your state, how your money is best spent, where your volunteer hours are the most impactful, or what's at stake in an election. You can find all of that on votesaveamerica.com. But if I step away from my bias of our product, I know that we all have resources that we can share with the people in our lives to not only make sure they vote intelligently, but also volunteer and give money if they can. And if they can is a very important part. Most of us in the room are in a privileged place to give our time and resources to the issues and candidates that we care about most. But for a lot of people in this country, their time is focused on providing for themselves and their families and making sure their basic needs are met, which is where our work becomes even more important. It's up to us to make sure that people who don't have the time, energy, and resources get what they need to vote and have advocates who are working in their best interest. It's the only way we can ensure that people, like 6-year-old me, always has someone fighting for them to make their lives better, even if they don't know it. Well, with a little more than a year until the 2020 election, I hope that each of us will approach it by determining what individual role we plan on taking, because whether or not we win depends on what action we take between now and then. I can assure you that none of this will be easy, but I hope that as we embark on the next year, we remember that every success up to this point is the fuel that will continue to take us on our respective journeys. And I'm confident that the next stop will be victory on November 3rd, 2020. Thank you, and thank you for all of the work that you all do.